And eventually I just said, no, I just have to do it. I think I would regret not doing it. I think that was the position. We test this stuff. Like, you write tests, everyone writes tests. It's not even like a thing that you question.
Inevitably, we will make some mistakes along the way.
Yep.
Those things. It's like, oh my god, that's so much work, much, not work, energy.
30 milliseconds is a really long time. You can tell. Now that brings a whole new challenge, whole new set of challenges. I think this is the joy of making a game. You can make this thing and you can have so much fun doing it.
This is the second part of the conversation with Jan Macháček. In the first episode, we talked about his story with Cake Solutions, Java and Scala consulting company, and the later acquisition by BAMTech and Disney Streaming and his role there. In this episode, we'll dive into Jan's story with Dream on a Stick in the gaming industry. What made you to consider moving into gaming? Because sneak peek, that's the next stage, it's so, like, everyone, let's be honest, like half of the people or maybe more than start in an engineering industry because when you are a teenager, you think like, I'm going to write some games, I'm going to build some, No one, like most of us never do, but you did. And that's so interesting because you already had a significant career in other places.
I think, okay, first of all, so during COVID lockdown, a friend and I, Andrew and I, we played games. There's not, four walls. What are you going to do? Okay, at least in the UK, you could go out. This was, you could go out and go for a bike ride alone. You could go to a shop, alone. I mean, okay, fine. And then we got home and it's like, again, luckily we have a garden, right? But it was still the same four walls. So Andrew said, okay, you have to get an Xbox. I'm like, man, no, I'm too old for games. I haven't played games in like 20 years. Just trust me. I'm like, okay, fine. So I got an Xbox, like a second-hand Xbox One. And we played some games. And just we didn't think anything of it. Before this, we were doing, we would get together on Sunday and do little hacking engineer electronics projects. The flipping number board that we had, made a clock, and we had Nixie tubes that we bought from some, military oversupply from Hungary. But we just make these fun projects. Then we started playing games. I didn't think anything of it. I was still doing Disney. And then, as you say, it's like, when I was young, as you recall, right? I was gonna make games, right? Except I didn't because, I had a stupid 286 CPU with EGA monochrome monitor, so it didn't play any games at all. So whatever, I didn't make games. But I thought, maybe we can. And we started, talking about this a little more. And eventually I just said, no, I just have to do it. I think I would regret not doing it. I think that was the position. It's a combination of midlife crisis or let's just see if it can be really done. And I kept telling myself, in the end I said, look, if I leave Disney now, I'm sure I can. If in 6 months it turns out that it cannot be done or that it's really horrible, I will not have forgotten all this Scala and stuff. I can go back. Maybe not to Disney, but I can go back to the industry. But if it works out, okay, and then it's a new chapter, something different to do. So I left. It was like September, I think. And okay, let's start making games. First year, we both of us, okay, we were engineers. We could write code. We had never made games, ever. I mean, we play games, right? But there's a difference. And so we thought, okay, we're gonna give ourselves a year to learn. I think it was really cool. We actually genuinely spent a year just doing stuff for the sake of learning. And it brings you back if you're talking about technology again, right? Programming, language is okay. So, okay, fine, you forget Scala and you go to C++. Okay, so what? The if then else is still there. Like the classes are still sort of classes, and you have lambdas, and the syntax is a little different, but hey ho. You can do it in a day, the basics in a day, right? And I used to do C++ and native code back then when I was younger, so it wasn't a massive surprise. But then the framework is different. Everything is different. And then you have to make art. That it took us a long time to figure out what our style is, to learn how to do art, to learn how to make something that we think looks nice. So that was a whole new experience, whole new set of tools, whole new set of challenges.
But wait, back in the day, there were two of you, right? Working on it.
Yes, and there are still two of us. Actually, now.
So one of you were doing arts, graphics, things like that. The other was doing programming.
Nah, not really. It was like we are both, midlife crises happened, and we're like, okay, we need to do both. To a degree, I think Andrew does better art than me. There's no question. I'm not sure if I do better code than him, but again, in such a small company, the risk of one person does one thing and another person does completely different thing, and you only meet in the middle, that just scares me. All that we have to do is, we're not getting younger. All that I have to do is, get ill for 2 weeks and it grinds to a halt. Or I go on holiday, or something, anything. It's like, no, we can't. So we need to be able to share as much knowledge as possible. Again, and Andrew was an old Cake Solutions guy as well, so known quantity. We sort of knew we didn't know what we were getting ourselves into, but we thought we did.
Again, to continue the pattern from the very beginning of the career, not knowing what we are getting into.
Yeah, this is it. But you just have to do it. It's difficult enough to be interesting. And yes, there are boring things. There are things that I just really don't want to do, but you have to do them. There's no difference from any other programming or any other development work. It expands. I mean, the scope of the project expands. There's the code. And again, in a game, it's much closer to the experience of Disney. In the sense that it's a distributed system. Okay, we have 2 multiplayers. You can play together with 2 people, but it's online. It's a distributed system. Very, very small, but nevertheless distributed system. And what matters is 30 milliseconds is a really long time. You can tell. Now that brings a whole new challenge, whole new set of challenges. People will play over long distances. They'll go like, oh, I'm in, my sister's in Czech Republic, I'm in the UK, let's play. It takes a long time for the little, for the little electrons to get to Czech Republic and back, if you ignore anything else. And now it has to move, it has to make predictions. That's all good, that's all engineering. What's more interesting is if it fails, you are angry. You're halfway through a game and it crashes. You're angry because you lost your whatever progress you made. You're annoyed. You were having a good time, and now this thing has stopped you from having a good time. Whole new. This is the completely different experience again to, I don't know, e-commerce. You've put things into your shopping cart, and then temporary down. How annoying. But okay. This is real time, distributed state, and emotions matter.
But you said that it's in a way similar to how work at Disney looked like and generally how programming is in building something?
If you think about Disney, what you want is a tool, so this website, this app, that brings you to the content that you want to watch. That's the exciting thing. The fact that you log in, browse, that's almost an obstacle. As a user, you don't want that. You want to watch the film, and the film has to be pretty and exciting. That's the thing you want. Stuff in front of it, if it somehow disappeared, you wouldn't care. Now, game is really similar in the sense that you want to enjoy the experience. Now, can you say, I mean, of course you can say, right? So yes, you need login, just like in a game, you need some sort of menu system. Sure, you need all these things, you need some mechanics. But what it comes down to is, if you're watching a piece of content, if you're watching a film, a series, you need to be able to, you just want to enjoy it. If you play a game, it needs to be fun. That's it. No matter how, and there's also balance. No matter how technically brilliant your game is, if it's not fun, why would you play? People will not play for the beauty of the code. Similarly, if you take a streaming platform, whatever it is, it doesn't really matter. If the content is rubbish, you can have the most wonderful login, payment, catalog flow. But if the content is rubbish, no one will watch. But okay, having said that, if your code is rubbish and you find the thing that you want to, the thing looks pretty, the content is exciting, and it crashes, you'll try again, and then you will complain. Like, you will very loudly complain. Reminds me of, again, Joe Spolsky. The example he gave in one of his books is Napster. Again, back in the days, Napster user interface was absolutely hideous. It was rubbish. It was horrible to use. It crashed. But it did something so useful to some people that we all used it. I was like, yeah, that. I don't care how horrible it is. I don't care that it crashes. I'll keep coming back. So you can get, if you're really lucky, you can get the same thing in game or in media. Your content is just so good that even if your player crashes twice during a show, you'll come back to it. But these things aren't, like Napster is one of a thing. If now, I don't know, Spotify does this, I'll be going, well, wait a minute. What's wrong? Like, you are useful, but you're not brilliant. And I think, as much as I like to think that our game is really good, I think we have to balance out the content, which is, we like it, but it's not a AAA game, and it never will be. So we have to make sure that everything else is solid enough so that we don't annoy our users, we don't annoy our players. They feel value and enjoyment in the thing that they get.
So, but putting it on the sort of the timeline, that was 2021 when you said you started experimenting.
Mm-hmm.
That might have been a year of learning.
Yeah.
But then at some point you came to the idea that we're gonna build a game, because what copy would be? We'll probably should put a link into this
True,
episode to copy. But just so our listeners and viewers know, would you say that it's a coffee shop? It's not a simulator.
Yeah. It is. It's, if you've played these cooking games like Overcooked, which we did during lockdown. So this probably reveals, again, we've gone back to the pub decision process.
It worked so far pretty well, by the way.
I know, right? So far it worked out. So we thought, let's stick to the tradition that seems to be producing results. So again, first year we made a couple of not complete games. These were internal experiments just to learn how to do this. And they looked terrible, they crashed, but nevertheless we learned more and more things. And then it came down the time to, go to the pub and say, what game are we going to make? And I am led to believe that the industry spends weeks doing research and conducts user interviews and market research. We didn't know any of that. So we had a couple of drinks and we said, we enjoyed this game. How hard can it be? Okay, let's make it. So, our decision was quick, followed by, a couple of beers to make sure that it really, is a solid foundation. And then we started programming. So it is a cafe simulation. You make things. If you want the nerd explanation, it's sort of like a process management game. So you make coffees and food, and you have limited resources. So you have maybe you have one kettle, right? And someone wants Americano and tea. Well, now you have to decide what to make first. You have customers who come in and they want things, and you can only do so many things at the same time, and things take some time to boil and fry and cook. So, if you really want to push it, it's management game, but it kind of isn't. It's just fun, right? Because you can do stupid things. The customers will throw cups back at you if you give them the wrong thing. It's just fun. But in any case, it's this game that we started building. It's this idea of multiple things happening at the same time. You serve customers and you just have fun.
Mm-hmm. But that's going back to the time frames. 2021 beginning idea, 2022. It's already you are 2 years into
we are
article.
2 years into it. So it's surprising. I shouldn't say this, but it's surprisingly difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you say, I don't know how, when we did all the playtests with our early builds, you say to a British person, okay, let's be specific, how do you make a cup of tea at home? And they say, well, what do you mean? You put some water in the kettle, you boil it, and you put tea bag into a cup, you put some water over it, you let it sit there for a bit, and you add some milk and some sugar. There you go, it's tea. There you go. And you say, okay, do that in the game. And I'm not kidding, they will try to put bread in the kettle, and then they will fill the cup full with milk, and they're like, why couldn't I put more water in it? Yeah, but it's a special skill. So a lot of the things that we thought were completely natural to you, me, everyone else in the real life. How do you make, I don't know, sausage on a piece of bread? You take sausage, you fry it, and you put it on a piece of bread. There you go. It's super simple. And then if you put it in a game, people will first pour some water over on the frying pan, and then put the bread on, and then put raw sausage on it. No, but how? So we spent a lot of time. So the first version of the code was what we thought was, it didn't have that many restrictions.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay, you have your kitchen, and if you want to put a piece of bread in the kettle, okay, it's not a great idea, but you can. If you want to boil milk in the kettle, in electric kettle, I wouldn't recommend it, but sure. And it was a disaster. No one could actually make anything in the game. So that was a bit of a challenge. So then, when you come to engineering decisions that come back to bite, so we thought, okay, this just doesn't work. Let's change the process entirely. Let's rewrite big chunk of the core of the game, so that, and again, this is nerd paradise, right? So that we can implement a constraint solver for these recipes. So you have a couple of recipes that you have to make. You have you have some transformations between the ingredients, as we used to call them, and now you want to solve a way to combine them together to give you the outcome with the constraints of the world. Well, there you go, it exists already, constraint solver. We've used one back in the days at Cake on one of the projects. How hard can that be? Oh my goodness. So we've implemented a constraint solver. A naive one, it doesn't have to, the solution space isn't huge. So, 5-6 recipes in each level. And I have just last week refactored it out. As lovely as it was, I looked at it now, a year and a half later, I'm like, what is this thing? Why? How? And yeah, it had to go. So there it was, a thing that was the crown jewel of our system, the thing that allowed it to do the things that the previous version failed so spectacularly on because of users, bad users. They forced us to rewrite in. We implemented a wonderful, brilliant technical solution, and then a year later, I had no idea what this code did. I pasted it into various AIs, and they said, "Oh, this code makes some recipes." I'm like, "Yeah, I know, but that's not what I want."
Right, but the interesting part also, there are many interesting parts, but one of the interesting parts is this. It started as a 1-year experimentation. Let's see how it goes, and then we can get back to any kind of the other serious job that we had in the past.
Yeah.
And yet it turned out to be a 4-year journey. So
it really did.
It seems to be exciting enough.
It totally is. What's the best? So I think this is apart from Disney. Disney, of course, yes, projects were delivered, and even going back to Cake, we delivered projects that ultimately had users and we could see them. Mm-hmm. But a little bruising to the ego was the fact that no one really knew. Like if we delivered a consultancy project for our clients, we were a completely nameless thing. We didn't even exist as Cake. Okay, sure. When we delivered code to Disney, you wouldn't even be in the credits, of course, right? And even if we were, we'd be on page 3000 of the credits, like 2 hours in. So it didn't happen. With this game, it's different. Again, we've gone back to very small team, very small companies. Like this now matters. Mm-hmm. So there's much more direct connection with our players, much more direct connection with our audience. So you can now know what works, as in gameplay, what people like, and you also know what works and doesn't work technically. People install games on their computers, and there are things on people's computers that you wouldn't believe. Like, no, it works on this. Oh, I see you have McAfee. I'm making this up, but there are billions of combinations of weird setup, weird hardware. Again, we've sort of gone back to it must work all the time to it must work for most people. Mm-hmm. If it doesn't work on someone's one particular configuration.
So now after these few years, because it started as an idea. There was COVID, you were at home, and we also had a little bit of a middle-age crisis, things like that. Let's experiment. But did it change? Did it move to this area of maybe actually viable business?
Yeah, it definitely did. I mean, we started doing it as a business, and as we developed it, you go through a couple of stages of, just like every other project, just like all the POCs, it's done. It's like, yes, it's exciting, it works, look. And then we went to a local game show and we had a couple of people play it, and it sort of worked, And I think this was the stage of, I guess, the cake stage of things. As in, it worked. There are things that people didn't find intuitive or that we could fix, but like it proved the core concept. So like, okay, it works. The challenge was, it's such a long time. And again, this should have been a lesson from consultancy days. It's such a long time from the core works to there's a product. There's a product that works for most people, that is understood by most people, where it's not that the core works but it has weird bugs. It's like it doesn't have big serious bugs. It doesn't have the gameplay mechanics, the things that you do, you can't break it, because again, the experience has to be good for the players. So that took an extremely long time. So you go through the high of, yeah, we can do it, and it's exciting. And I think it was at that time that we applied to Xbox to be able to do console port, because you can't just develop it on Steam. That's it. You just pay them a little bit of money, just like Apple and Google, and there you go, there's your app. With consoles, there's a much more complicated process. You have to be approved, not technically but content-wise for the platform. Then, this platform, your game is suitable, we would like to have this thing on our platform. And then you get some pretty exciting hardware kit for free. So there's under a wall of NDAs, there's a box on my desk that's actually really super exciting. So you get to use that to develop your game. So that was the first high of, this is cool. We can have a console build. And then you go through the low of, oh my god, how long to make this? And these are the weird edge cases, but they're not. The fact that it works for you at home on your Wi-Fi, it will not work for most people over the internet. And they will hate it. And it's, maybe this is our standards, right? I think a lot of the things that we did, we could have got away without doing, but it's our stubbornness, our engineering pride, our design pride, where we said it has to be better. Surely we can do better than that. So we spent, that was the low of, oh wow, okay, you're talking business, cool, but this is like 2 years in, right? The reality starts to bite in. You say, okay, every month we're spending this much money, and we've already spent this much money. So the number of games, the number of copies that we would have to sell just goes up. Every month we would look at this number and say, month one, you say, oh, no, we can sell like 50 and it's cool. Or 100 or whatever, right? And then as you go, you're like, okay, we need to sell like 10,000 of them for it to make business sense. But there's part of it that, makes business sense. And there's also a part of it where you've built a company, you've invested in a company, you've built this game studio now. And we have some knowledge now, we know how to make some genre of games, and we know how to make a particular scale of games. So I think even if we're lucky that we can accept a position where we say, okay, it's sustainable. We can just keep going. We don't have to get a return on this first game. We can make another game. We've learned enough to make another game. So I think...
Is it a plan to make another game? Is it already something in your head?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We need to, obviously copy is not finished. It's not going to be finished until it's on a console. So we want that, and we want a couple of more levels, we want more content, sure. But after that, this is not the end. It's, from a business perspective, right, we've invested so much time and money in building a studio. It's silly to have a company and only make one product if you now know how to make products.
unless you treat it as a hobby,
Yeah.
which you don't,
Yeah.
obviously at this point.
Yeah.
So you're seeing that, or envisioning, it might be too big of a word, but it's not in the realms of impossible things that dream on a stick, because that's the name of the studio.
That's the name. Yep.
There's gonna be 10 engineers, 10 devs.
I think
maybe
I
20,
would-
maybe 30.
This
Is possible?
Now that you say this number, I don't want. It feels like sometimes it feels like rose-tinted glasses. Where you're like, wouldn't it be cool if we were young again and got back to having no? But you're right. I think it would be really, really exciting if we had a team of 8, 10, because you can do things.
Yeah.
You can do many more things, and it's still, you're not taking on the massive communication overhead. You can learn. Yeah, I think I would like that. But then again, at the same time, I wouldn't object to having, another 100 people studio.
Yeah.
There will be many more mistakes to make. I think it would be really exciting. I think stages. What I would really like is, 5, 6 people first,
Yeah.
and just grow. I don't want to say organically. So one of the things that we learned at Cake is it's helpful to have some sort of goal. So in the early days, it's not a bad thing, but I'll say it, we missed what we could have done. Again, it just happened to really work for us. So we don't have regrets. But if at the time that we were 10, we said, hey, this could be a 100 people company, we could have been a 100 people company in a much quicker time if we actually knew that this is really what we want to do. So I think, yes, right now the plan is for us to be, a team of 5, 6. But I think if we get to that, I think at least we will know. If we decide to stay at 5 or 6, we will know why. We say this, we want that. If we decide to become much bigger, we can make that decision knowing a little more about what that involves. So I'm not sure. I will say for now, I would like to have less than 10 people-ish, that sort of scale. But after that, anything is possible.
Yeah. I deliberately asked this question because I know that it is, having been through the phase of growing company, it is exciting, but it's also extremely exhausting in some way. You have said many times in our conversation today that if we did know back then something, then maybe we did it differently, or maybe we wouldn't even do it. And now, having know how it was, sometimes for me it is scary if I were in position to start a company from the very beginning, and I think about all those problems, all the structure, all those processes, all the people that you need to hire, put in a position of responsibility. Inevitably, you will make some mistakes along the way. Those things. It's like, oh my God, that's so much work, much, not work, energy, mental, physical.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's exciting.
Absolutely. I think one of the reasons that we both, so Andrea and I, decided to do this is I think we would have regretted not doing it. It's the feeling of, if we didn't do this and didn't do it now, we possibly could have been 10 years later going, we should have done that. Yeah. And it's always easy to say, right? Because, rose-tinted glasses and everything. It was so amazing back when there was only 6 of us at Cake. And most of the times, yes. But there were some pretty rubbish times as well. And you forget those.
Sure.
It's what you say, building a company, right? You think, if you knew this and if you had to do it again, you might make different decisions or even not do it at all because it's just so much work. But yeah, I think either just the rose-tinted glasses or the fact that we say, I'll just do it. What's the worst thing that can happen?
Yeah, I really like this process of decision making. I'm going in a pub and spending like 1-2 hours. I know that it might be sometimes exaggeration, but the spirit of those making decisions, I think that in general, me at least, sometimes I overthink certain decisions, and at some point it's like, yeah, it gives some value to think about something for some period of time, but then it's diminishing returns. It's like, and even worse, because the doubt starts to creep in, and you start, second guessing yourself.
And to be clear, as you said, a lot of the times, by the time you are in the pub, all the people will have thought about it. It's not like you make a decision on the spot. Right. There has been a lot of thinking privately that everyone has done, and then what you really get in, say, the pub, is the consensus. You're like, yeah, actually, we want to do this, and we can see that these people here want to do it, and then it's easier, right? I think if you wouldn't be in the pub if you actually didn't want to build it together. You wouldn't be in the pub if you disagreed. If you were 2-3 co-founders, and co-founder 1 wanted to do A and co-founder 2 wanted to do not A, right? That's not even B, it's like not A. Mm-hmm. You probably wouldn't be in the pub.
Right.
And if it's a situation you want to do 3 people, one wants to do A, second one wants to do A, and the third person wants to do B, that's cool. Mm-hmm. That's relatively easy.
So going back into the Dream on a Stick and the process of making copy, all those tools that you are using, not mentioning even the languages, because you said that you used C++ in the past, I assume that most of the tools, frameworks, are as different as they could be from your previous work in Disney or Cake Solutions. What are the tools of frameworks that you are using?
Having said that, so we've picked Unreal Engine for our game engine. Mm-hmm. And the choices really, back when we started, was Unity and Unreal. Godot was there, but everyone was still waiting. Ho, ho, ho. Anyway, so we picked Unreal, and to my great pleasure, Unreal is an actor-based framework. So there are actors, and they have a synchronized functions. I have this receive single-threaded function that you can do whatever you want with the world in that known point, and it's serialized, it's synchronized. So this is all very pretty. But other than that, of course, there's a whole bunch of other threads underneath that do networking and audio and rendering. So this is more complicated. So we had to learn the framework of how these things are assembled in the engine in Unreal. Akka and Scala really helped. The idea of actors is like you didn't have to explain. So much content, so many tutorials were focused on, this is an actor and this is what it means. No, that's cool. Don't worry about that. I have this we have. You don't have to tell me, you don't have to explain, you don't have to, go through the details. A lot of it was dealing with, sure, I did university and there was mathematics and there was linear algebra and, vectors and matrices, sure. But there's a difference between you can, with the sweat of the brow sort of multiply 2 matrices together maybe on a piece of paper in an exam, and that's it, right? Your goal in the exam is to take one matrix, second matrix, and multiply them together and get the result that's correct, and you get a point. It's a whole new discipline to see what it means. Like, why? What is this matrix? What is this vector? And when I multiply them, what is it that I'm going to get? So that took me, a non-mathematician, a really long time. Mm-hmm. To get this intuition. You can write it, right? But what really helps is the more I do it, the less you have to think about it, the more it's like, yeah, I do this, and I know what it's going to look like in space, right? as we're dealing with games. So that took a lot. It's not that scary. It just needs a little bit of deliberate focus, at least on my side, right? Another option, of course, is to just do random stabs. And you can do it, right? Because the vectors are small and the matrices are small. So you can flip them, and you can multiply things with -1 until it sort of slots together. It really brings me to, the mathematics we did back in high school, mathematics lesson after going to the pub. It seems to be a pattern, right?
Yeah.
We sit in the few of us renegades would sit in the back row, and you sort of look at this thing, and it has some imaginary numbers, and the teacher would say, "What's the answer? You at the back. What's it gonna be, right? 0, -1, +1, I, minus I." That's about it, right? You can guess. There's so many options. But it kind of helps to know rather than guess.
Right. So it's about the intuition, as you said, developing intuition. But from what you're saying, my impression is that for someone who came from building business systems, the technology and the frameworks, libraries, languages, these were not the most difficult part of this transition.
They were not. You're right. They were not. What helped us... let's start from the good things. Because we came in from serious software, so to speak, we test this stuff. Like, you write tests. Everyone writes tests. It's not even like a thing that you question. Of course you do, as a matter of course. Of course you have CI/CD. Of course CI/CD is 0-click. You just push some code into your repo, and out pops a thing that's tested that you can play. So to us, we build this stuff, and it's not a surprise. Now, I think this is a really big advantage. We saw other small studios. They had the massive head start in art and design and game design, but they really had rough time with engineering. It's full of bugs. It crashes. Now, that doesn't mean that our game isn't full of bugs, but at least this stuff is easy. Now, we had to spend a lot of time doing the other stuff, which was difficult for us, as in, it needs to look pretty and it needs to be fun. I mean, that was a real big challenge. We were engineers, software engineers, and before this we were doing some little electronics projects. So, we sort of 3D print a box, but functional box, right? It's not a pretty box, it's a box, and in the box you put your electronics things. But in a game you can't just have a box. It has to be prettier than just a box. It has to be prettier than just a cylinder. And it was a couple of surprises came out saying you can have bugs in your 3D models. You're like, what? I just thought, you're making this up, right? Surely you use a tool, and it produces a 3D model, and that's it. You're like, oh, but if you produce a 3D model in a particular way, you would consider it to have bugs. You would consider it to be not good. You then want to shade it, you want to put texture on it, and it looks ugly. That's what I mean by bugs. Or it's difficult to put the right colors on it. Those are bugs. And so it took us a long time to, again, learn this way of seeing these bugs and knowing how serious they are. We had an intuition in programming. If you write this, it's going to cause problems, or you shouldn't be doing this. You can do it because, time pressure or whatever. You just say, this is fine. Temporary code. Test code, right? I mean, our test code, if you look at it the wrong way, if you write the test the wrong way, it's segfaults. But we know because it's meant to be consumed by us. So, it comes with sharp edges, and we know. but we had no intuition when it came to modeling. What constitutes a bug? What constitutes a good idea? And what is a bad idea? So it took us a long time to discover. It took us a long time to remodel and relearn, or learn, not even relearn, all these things. So that was it was so new. It was actually really, really exciting as well to do this. And when it comes to 3D modeling, it's kind of the same. There are compromises that we have, and we are now better at spotting them, and we can say, this thing, this, I don't know, piece of bread is so far away that it doesn't matter. No one will see it. It's just too small. You can't see it. Mm-hmm. But you have to know. I think if you don't know, that's where, bad code, that's where bad models come up, because you didn't know that you made a mistake. You didn't know that you made a compromise because you had no idea how to make it.
Right.
And it will bite. It will come back and bite you. Again, you could be lucky and it might not. I don't know. Computers are fast these days, incredibly fast. You could write the worst in the world Perl, and it will still do 1,000 requests per second, and it'll be cool. But if you wrote it, I think what I'm trying to say is, if you wrote it by accident, that's probably not a good place to be. Mm-hmm. If you wrote it knowing that, hey, that's just how it is, this is my decision, then okay, cool.
Yeah, awareness, and that comes back to what you said about the original cake solution mindset of not accepting that some module or library does something. You have to, or at least that was the culture at Cake Solutions, you have to know how it works beneath. So going maybe a little bit into the future, and you mentioned already, you hinted at this, AI, which is all the rage today. And when we talk, let's be honest, when we talk AI today, we mostly talk about Gen AI. That's what we talk about. And so my question is, you seem to be a bit skeptical, at least in the example that you presented with the C++ code and this constraint solver. And I was thinking, do you see AI, be it, I don't know, Claude, Gemini, whatever, useful in the game development, especially because one thing is the code base. And I guess in games, the other part is art. So you have also Gen AI for generating some sort of, graphic assets.
Mm-hmm. So I don't want to be... We tried. Okay, I tried all of them, I think. Even the expensive Claude, the super duper, super expensive thing. My experience it's not helpful for me, which is really strange. And I think I found myself recently thinking, this is awesome. It gave me this false feeling of this, I'm productive. Look at this thing, I'm interacting with this AI and it's giving me suggestions. But then none of them worked. Now, so eventually I just thought, hey, wait a minute. I've spent a whole morning going through this thing and it just didn't get it right. It's still wrong. And so that was, this keeps happening when it comes to code. Now, I guess it's different because I've been doing code for such a long time. But it's a real, my experience is that it delivers these solutions very confidently. You do this.
Oh yeah.
And you go like, okay, cool. And it looks okay, right? So now that I know a little bit more about, Unreal, I know what's there and what isn't because I've used it so much. But in the early days, it just delivers this thing, like, you do this. I'm like, yeah, it kind of looks good, right? Mm-hmm. And then you, if you're lucky, you paste it into a compiler and it just says, no, doesn't exist, doesn't work like that. it gets a little more difficult when it's like maybe a configuration parameter that looks good. You think, I don't know, I want to reduce the ping, or I want to reduce the packet size, or I want to increase the packet size, or I want to increase the minimum or maximum, whatever. You ask AI, and it just says, yeah, you just write this thing to the configuration file. I'm like, yeah, it looks good, right? It just says minimum packet size equals whatever. No, that makes sense. Paste it in, doesn't work. Or nothing changes. You're like, oh, wait, what? And so you ask again, you say, hey, are you sure? I say, no, well, yes. I'm so sorry, I'm not worthy, and please forgive me. What I gave you is a solution for like Unreal 4. I see you are Unreal 5. You should write this. And it spits out a thing that, again, looks so plausible. And you paste it in and do the round of testing, and it still doesn't work. And you're like, and then you look for that string in the whole code base, and like, it's just not there. And whether it's a bug or a feature, you add a configuration parameter that no one reads, no one is going to complain, right? At least the configuration tool will. It would be nice if it said, this configuration value, I don't know it, error. That would be quite nice, but it doesn't work that way because I guess it would be difficult to do with all the plugins. You can extend it, yada, yada, yada. So you just get nothing. So I didn't find the code assistance as useful. And I remember one day, and this is, again, what I wanted to do is to have a nice little sort of ballistic trajectory. So the customer will throw a piece of paper at you, and what I want it to do is to just follow a nice ballistic trajectory and hit you, the barista, on the head. And I thought, surely I can do this, right? This is high school physics. We all did this. And I started doing it. I was like, I don't remember any of this stuff. I mean, roughly, yes, but I can like do this when it falls down. It's like, oh, you have a potential energy, and it falls down and accelerates and it hits. I'm like, okay, that's kind of cool. But then you have these weird trigonometry functions, and yuck. Anyway, okay, AI, come on, do this. And it spat out a thing in JavaScript, but hey ho, then I got it to do in C++. And it looked okay-ish, right? It sort of, it had the right terms, and you could see how it changes, and there's a total distance and a trajectory, and then it helpfully pointed out, oh, it only works in like, it doesn't work if you have like a curved space-time, it wouldn't work. I'm like, no, that's cool. Our game isn't nothing like that. So I thought that's it, right? I pasted it in, and it just didn't work. I don't mean like didn't work a little. The customer threw the thing, and then first frame here, and then it just like went, it threw something completely different. Like, no, what the hell? So I went, okay, let's go through this again. Maybe I retyped it wrong because it didn't generate Unreal code, it generated just generic C++ code. So I thought, okay, maybe I've done it wrong. So I retyped it again. I that was right. So I thought, okay, well, let's open a compiler explorer, right? And paste it in wrong. Like, that's not the physics I wanted. It doesn't work that way. So I thought, now what, right? So I opened Wikipedia, okay, ballistic motion. Oh, and it came out with, the proper mathematics. I'm like, I don't want that. I want to fake it enough so that it looks real enough. I don't want the real thing. I'm not sending missiles to space. So eventually I had to, dig out an actual textbook and a piece of paper, and for better or worse, do it by hand.
Yeah, that's interesting thing, because when you started this, I was thinking like, first of all, there are some people, including myself, by the way, that if you write something that is build something that is a typical web application, you got as we mentioned, send some JSON, receive some JSON, store them in a database. It seems helpful. And I was wondering at the very beginning when you started, talking about this, I was thinking, yeah, maybe Unreal Engine. And game development is not really something that is in the training data. You don't see a lot of open source, projects on a GitHub. Maybe that's it. But then when you describe this, ballistic motion, it doesn't seem to be related to Unreal Engine.
Yeah,
it is,
true.
Pretty generic thing.
Yeah.
So I would expect that modern days AI should fare with that pretty well.
Yeah, I would have expected that too. But, and this is where complications, the little hairs of reality of game development come in. So it's not real physics. What I mean is, if a customer, so in our game, right? If you don't serve a thing to a customer, eventually they get so angry, they start, and then they'll throw like a piece of paper at you. But in real world, what would happen is if you did that as a customer, and if I were throwing a piece of paper at you, I'd scrunch of paper, I would measure, and in my brain, right, I would measure where you are, I would aim at you and throw. If you, just as the paper left my hand, if you moved, I'd miss. But we don't want that in our game. What we want in our game is for that paper to always hit you. So you have like this homing paper. Now, this is where even ballistic movement doesn't help you, because you want fake ballistic movement. Now, you can't even have a homing missile. So you can't like throw a piece of paper for it to fly behind you, turn back and hit you.
Yeah.
So you need something that's plausible enough, that's not noticeable enough, and it's sort of okay. And the AI just wasn't having any of it. It said, I can make you a homing missile algorithm. I don't... yeah, but no. I can give you a ballistic movement. Yes, but I want a broken one. And I think that's where you hit a lot of the limitations.
Got it. So the devil is in the detail. Right? It's like you can always do, because maybe that's the thing. When we talk about the classical web development, there are a lot of things that are pretty generic, pretty standard. As we said, like you get the JSON, you store it in a database, you pull it from the database, you render it somewhere on the web page, and there are plenty of training examples available. So maybe that is more repeatable, or more, if it's not repeatable, because probably what you say, I certainly had the image in my mind when you said this, a little bit of a ballistic movement, a little bit of a homing missile. Yeah, I sort of imagined, I sort of see it, because that's how it works in games. Like as you said, it's not realistic. It seems to be realistic on the surface. It is not in the mechanics.
It really totally isn't. So another example, this is, I can reveal a little bit, this is what's coming in our Christmas edition. And this is very much inspired by, you might have this in Poland as well, but very much Czech Republic. If you go shopping, there are some customers that get really angry when you block their shopping carts. So you're walking around, right, and there's someone behind you who goes, if you don't move, they'll ram you. So the Czechs will actually ram you with their shopping carts. So we wanted the same thing in the game. So there's this guy that sells roast chestnuts in a cart, right, pushes a cart. If you block him, he'll start getting angry and then he'll ram you. So again, I think this is the joy of making a game. You can make this thing and you can have so much fun doing it. But also, even trying to explain this concept to an American AI is difficult. And for it to come with a plausible, fake enough movement that's not physics based really as such. You don't really want physics. You want plausible, exaggerated version of the same thing, and it never managed to do that.
Right.
So yeah, it struggles with these scenarios. To be honest, it's brilliant for I don't know, give me a command line parameter for ffmpeg to amazing. Amazing, because the cost of verification is zero. You paste it in, oh, it worked, cool. It didn't work. AI, it says this parameter doesn't exist. What now? And then it's cool. Recently, I was doing audio timing. So there's a bit of a geekery, right, in the game. So we have a Christmas band in the Christmas level, and we have a really cool musician. And he said, "Hey, I there's a background music." He said, "I don't want the band to just like play over the music. I want the band to play with the music." So he made the track, and the band music is composed in, but you need to play it or not play it, obviously, right? So you can give the band mulled wine, and if you give them mulled wine, then they'll drink it, and then they'll play the tune at the right time. So I tried to do it first in a really naive way. You just time it, right? We know that the track, our level is 3 minutes, and there's like 20 seconds, 40 seconds, 1 minute in is the time where they can start playing their tune. It's never exactly right. And it's off by units of milliseconds. And it sounds absolutely awful. You can't do it, you can't do it, you can't do it. Wow. So what you have to do is you have to actually mix it in with the background music, and you have to have sample precise mixing. So when it hits to sample number 100 and whatever thousand, that's when you play your second thing, and you mix it in, and then all the audio devices are synced. So I thought, okay, wow, how do I do this, right? Surely someone has done this, and they have. So you can wave audio files, you can add metadata that has these sync marks in them. And I thought, okay, cool. You sort of figure this out. And so I said, okay, hey, AI, how do I do this? Can I use FFmpeg? He said, yes, you can use FFmpeg. I'm like, okay, cool. So FFmpeg, I followed the thing and said, FFmpeg says error. This command line parameter doesn't exist. I'm like, AI, it says it doesn't exist. It says, oh yes, no, FFmpeg doesn't do it. Audacity does it. I'm like, okay, cool. Download Audacity, right? Okay, how do I do it? And it gives you a thing, and then it says, I couldn't save it. So the AI, what now? I mean, I have the markers in Audacity. What do I do now? It says, yes, no, you're right, you can't save it. I'm like, what is this? So eventually I found a piece of software through, like a psychopath Googling and typing. Yeah. And I thought, maybe you do it this way.
Yeah. So with these stories, and I am slowly, coming to the end of this very interesting conversation, and I feel like we could, spend another hour or so.
Easily, right?
So many levels in this. You being in those different kinds of companies, doing different kinds of work, business, software, consulting, product, now gaming. What's your opinion? What's your prediction of software engineering industry? Like, let's say 5 years from now. Obviously, a big part of it probably is, your outlook on the current stage and future stage of AI. But I'm asking in general.
Yeah. I think, look, it's exciting. This is. I keep saying this every decade. Like, this is the time to be a software engineer, right? It was so cool to be a software engineer at the age of 15 with like a, 286 came up, and then 386. Goodness, we had protected mode. It could do so many things, and then it changes every time. It's certainly a lot more accessible. I think this is so exciting. In our young days, it was difficult to get knowledge. So if a compiler threw an error at you, you had the manual that came with the thing, and if you couldn't figure it out, well, you were stuck. Then you have internet, and knowledge is so much more accessible. But it was expensive back in 2000, right? You want to make a piece of software, you have to buy an IDE, you have to buy some sort of dev kit from someone, and they would charge a lot of money for it. And then you go to now, and it's most development tools, you can get them for free.
Mm-hmm.
There's open source, this vast body of knowledge that you can use, that you can learn from. So that's really, really cool. The difficulty now is information overload. So like, I don't know, social media and all of this horrible stuff. It takes discipline. I'm going to say what is good or what is bad. It just takes discipline. Whatever you do with it, you have to have discipline. So it's the distractions that are now difficult. There's so little. I used to do this. Okay, listen to music when I develop and listen. Have like a video playing in the background. I had to stop it. I was like, no, just be quiet. Just everyone, shut up. No music. Be quiet. I can concentrate and do it. So there's that. And then, Gen AI. This brings me back to a couple of couple of points that I made earlier. If you can specify exactly what you want, you'll get it in some way. But you don't. You can't specify. Are we suggesting to go back to waterfall, where we have specification, precise? I mean, hey ho, right? Precise specification, and then you throw it at AI and say, okay, you make this for me. I don't know. Maybe it's not realistic to expect that. Is it even realistic to expect Gen AI to be able to generate stuff without a consistent model of reality? I don't know. I'm not an expert in. I would love that. I would love to have. Would I? I probably wouldn't, to be honest. If AGI is really coming, and if we'll have AGI in, I don't know, it doesn't matter how many years, but I can still live, right? So in 10 years' time we'll have AGI. Then I want to learn as much as possible. As much as possible, because then I'll have to live the rest of my life with my thoughts. So I'd rather know. So hey, that's my plan. And if AGI is not coming, well then I also want to learn, because, well, same reasons.
Sure.
So I think that's probably my take on the world. I'll still learn more things. I'll still do things. I'll still do these hard things. One way or another, it's going to be good for me.
Right. You think it's going to be... Because, I mean, like, in my experience, so last 20, 30 years, probably 30 years, where I was still conscious of how how the software industry looks like. It was like, at least, on a high level. So I guess when I was in high school, I sort of knew some people that were in the industry, and I knew back then that everyone was saying, look, this thing is growing, right? That's going to be a lot of jobs there in this industry. You're going to learn if it's something that is that is at least vaguely interesting for you. You should go into this area because it's going to be a good career. I think it was true back then, 90s, 2000, 2010, 2020. You think it's still like in 5 years, it's going to be even, or at least as much, there would be as much potential in software engineering as it was in the recent years?
Okay, it will change, right? Maybe it will, right? The software that we wrote 20 years ago is so different. The tools are different, the methods are different, the possibilities are different. So yeah, in 10 years' time, we'll probably be doing different kind of engineering. But, okay, unless there's an AGI, but I don't want to get into this sort of armchair philosophy. You wouldn't know, we wouldn't know, right? You don't discuss opera with your house spider. Mm-hmm. So if there is an AGI, it's not going to discuss its business with us. Because, like, again, spider doesn't appreciate opera. Whether I appreciate opera is also a different thing. But hey ho. but you still have to like exist and live. So I think there's definitely value in learning all these things. I would really love for AI, I'm not saying Gen AI, but AI, if AI could do my accounting, that would be awesome. If I could email it receipts and it do all the things. But for it to be legally responsible, I don't want to email it receipts and for mistakes to fall on my head. If I'm gonna accept AI, it better be legally responsible for its actions and not say, well, I don't know, oops, I made a mistake. Well, yeah, cool, but it falls on my head.
Right.
I would like that. I would like AI to do my dishes and laundry and not mess with my programming and art. I enjoy that. So, but these are really hard.
Yeah.
Those are the hardest. Like, okay, thinking about AI now, it's the POC, it's the cool thing, and it's exciting, it's amazing. I never thought we'd have such a thing. But to go from generate a piece of code to fill the dishwasher is a whole new level of complexity. And I would like that.
Right. Yeah, that's what people say, right? It's like, we don't want to do chores. And it's like, as you said, like, we wanted to do the creative stuff, but on some level, a lot of creative stuff supposedly went into AI for better or worse, because we are now being, attacked from different, angles by the generated creative AI slop.
We tried AI art. It's just ugly. I mean, it's acceptable. It's acceptable. It's passable, and we used some of it for placeholders. But it's horrible. It's just horrible, and every time I would launch the game, every time I would open the editor, this thing just sits there like a sore thumb. I just thought, I don't even want... I can draw it. That way I know that whatever I've drawn as a placeholder is a placeholder. And it's clear. I don't want this thing that, if you squint hard enough, could be the thing. So that I don't appreciate. I don't enjoy it. Now, does it mean that it opened the world? A whole bunch of philosophical discussion, right? So I don't know. The fact that we don't have to dig out our own potatoes means that we can do software. Yeah, but I'm not sure if you can extrapolate it to like this intellectual work. Anyway. But yes.
We'll see soon enough, I guess.
I know. Like I said,
maybe not soon enough, because like the world is changing, and definitely, as you said, like one thing is certain: the software engineering work in 5 to 10 years is gonna be different. The question is it still gonna be software engineering? And I think that from your, from reply, it might be different. It's still gonna be software engineering,
but it's gonna be engineering of things that people want. Right? And 100 years ago, okay, not 100 years ago, that's a bit pessimistic. 50 years ago, it was assembly, and then COBOL and whatnot.
Right.
You wouldn't dream of using the programming tools that we have now. But maybe, and this is legacy of cake, it's not magic. Like, please be aware that there are still wires, and that the processor does things by wires. Like, if you can do that, I can accept that you say, I don't really understand what these wires do, because I don't.
Yeah.
I did electrical engineering, but that was painful. And I don't mean getting the electrical shocks. They're painful too, but this is like, the exams. Oh, my dear colleague, what happens in DT seconds after you turn on the power? Oh my God. Bad things happen. That's all I can tell you. But at least you're aware, right? You're aware that you don't know. I think if you accept that it's cool to not know. That's what I find. That's when I am uncomfortable. I don't like that.
Yes, I mean, like, cool and maybe professional, because that is the thing that comes over and over in the history of our industry. And like, we had a period of ORMs, object relational mappers. Supposedly, you didn't have to know anymore that there is SQL, underneath it. But the reality always was that maybe you don't really need to know at the very beginning. Eventually, and that's eventually is not going to be 10 years from now, but eventually, if you treat the profession really professionally, you're going to know soon enough. You don't need to know intimately, like you would need to be able to build it from scratch. But as you said, you got to be aware.
You got to be aware, and don't brush it off. You can say, I don't know. You can say, I don't know. You can say, I have an ORM tool, and by some magic it ends up in the database, but I don't know what that magic is, and I hate it, and I want to know. That's okay. But it's the, no, it's fine. You don't have to know about this. Don't worry. That's what I find a bit odd.
Right. So maybe this nicely allows us to move to the last question that we have, which is, given the breadth and depth of your career so far, in the variety of different things, what would be as a parting thought, what would be, not advice, but at least thoughts for people that are moving from their engineering career? Maybe they are pondering the move to the engineering leadership, or generally speaking, they think about the next stage of the engineering careers.
I think management is really, really, really hard. If you want to do it well, if you want, never mind, I mean, whether it's technical management or just pure management, it's still tough. And I think some of the best managers that I've met in my life, in my career, they are super smart people, right? And they will ask these, they're the same things. They'll say, no. Okay, I don't understand. What does it look like when it's done? Where does it go? Where does the money go? Where does the time go? Where do the wires go? It's always that. And again, the best managers were not human, right? You can be fobbed off, and even with us engineers, you can say the same thing. Like, no. It just calls this. It calls the API, and we all have this human ability to accept that. Okay, you don't know, but it's okay. I don't have to dig because it's not that important. It calls this API. You go, what's fine. You don't actually know, but hey ho. If you're in management, you can say, well, we'll finish this project in 2 weeks' time. That's okay. You go like, you know what, it's fine, right? But there are important things for which you need to dig. And you say, no, when, how? Like, how is it possible? How can you finish this piece of work in 2 weeks' time when you only have 10 people? Or it's not even finished. Look, show me. Okay, I want to see. Show me. And it's that skill. Have you ever encountered a software tester that by magic they knew? You gave them a piece of code, an app or a web page, and it's like they did the one thing that brought it down. I've seen them, and it's like watching magic. You're like, how did you know that there's
also irritating?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like, how did you know that there's a bug? And they will say, first of all, I know because it's unusual. I have an instinct. I have done this many, many times. And same goes for good engineering. You can ask someone a technical problem, and they will zone in on the core within seconds. You can show someone a stack trace, and you're like, it's that. If you do management, you can say, here's a particular project problem or a people problem, and they will zone in on the core within seconds. So I think that's an extremely valuable skill, and it takes so much time and so many mistakes to get it right. So yes, if you're thinking about doing management or technical leadership, just know that it's difficult. You know, if you want to do a presentation to, I don't know, a board of directors, the presentation isn't the thing. The slides isn't the thing. It's the thing you've done behind the slides. It's the work that you've done. The slides is the output. And they can be ugly. Doesn't matter. Or you can have as pretty slides, as pretty charts and projections and spreadsheets. If they're not real, it doesn't matter. So
Okay.
yeah, if it's exciting. I enjoy it as well. I enjoy technology. I enjoy seeing what other people can do with technology. So yeah, I wouldn't discourage you. I don't think you have to give up technology for management, unless you want to, right? But in every case, it's, you know, I used to be the annoying thing. I'm like, okay, in a meeting I would say, okay, I understand this. I'm lost here. Tell me again what happens when I press this button. Tell me again what happens if we employ 10 other people. And you just get to the bottom of it.
Right. So, in a way, no matter how high you are, be it in the technical management hierarchy, don't be scared to dig deep, or be willing to, when needed, to be able to go down a few levels.
And I don't want to say be the stupidest person in the room. That's such a cliche and I hate it. No, but like, communicate, right? If you're in a meeting and then someone says, well, I don't know what you mean. You're like, I can't work with you. What do you not know? So explain, say, okay, I understood this, but I'm lost at this point. Tell me what happens after that. Again, that's easier. But if you say, oh, I don't know, then okay. What do you want? I can't work with you.
Right. Okay, so I think that was a really, really exciting conversation for me. And I think that even the part related to gaming, really any stage of your journey that you described, we could spend nearly an entire episode. And I still think that we scratched the surface. So maybe this is a food for thought for other episodes sometimes in the future.
Happy to talk about, more technical, less technical, gaming industry, and how everyone cries about this, that, and the other. But yeah, it's all anytime.
All right. In the meantime, I keep my thumbs for the success of Copy and
Thank you.
growing revenue, and for the new ideas that you have for the Dream on a Stick.
We'll definitely let you know. So yeah, we'll spam all the social media.
Looking forward to it. So thank you. It was very great to have you here, and thank you, and hopefully see you next time.
All right. Real pleasure. All right. Thanks for tuning in, and see you again. Bye-bye.
This is the end of the two-part interview with Jan Macháček. I hope you like the new structure of the Beyond the Commit pod. If you do, or you don't, equally let us know in the comment section. Thank you for watching and listening.